I'm about to share with you the top 10 do's and don'ts of wholesaling real estate. And if you're brand new to my channel, my name is Austin Zaback, and I have wholesaled a little over 2,000 real estate deals in the last 9 years or so. I got started in wholesaling in 2014, and here are the top 10 things that I've learned over time that you should and shouldn't do. So the first mistake that I see people do all the time when they get into wholesaling, it is a big do not, okay? And that is to focus on multiple different strategies in the beginning of getting a deal. So what happens a lot of the time is you see somebody in front of the bank, you see somebody holding a big check, and all of a sudden you want to get into wholesaling real estate and you go a million miles an hour. I've seen it more times than I can even begin to describe. And trust me, I get it. You're excited, you want to get your first deal, and believe me, it is life-changing, okay? If you do your first deal, you can make a lot of money, it can change your life forever, but I want to shortcut your learning curve and try to help you, get on the right trajectory. That way you're not wasting a bunch of time, money, and energy. So what I see people do all the time is they'll go and they'll put up a bunch of bandit signs, and then they'll hire a cold calling, VA in the Philippines. And then they're like, man, my cold calling VA in the Philippines, they're really actually not that great. I'm gonna hire a cold calling VA in Egypt, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that, right? And then maybe they send a little bit of direct mail. And then they're like, man, I wanna work with real estate agents. I'm gonna try to get a deal off the MLS, or I'm gonna go try to build a big buyers list and just get another wholesaler's deal and sell their deal. And on and on and on, right? There's just a million different things that your average person, they get into the industry and they try to run a million miles an hour in a million different directions all at the same time. And I don't know about you, but once upon a time, somebody told me, Austin, if you try to chase two rabbits, you will catch neither. So the lesson here in the very beginning is to pick one methodology in which you're going to pursue for the first year or so. Be the very best in that lane that you can possibly be. The thing that I would probably focus on if I was a brand new wholesaler is I would work with real estate agents and I would get deals off of the MLS. In my opinion, this is by far the easiest strategy to getting your first wholesale deal. Remember, real estate agents are the ones that have that direct relationship with the homeowner. So there are really two different ways that you can do it, right? Way number one is that you go ahead and you get on the MLS and you search for properties and you just look through to find a good deal, right? You're looking for fixer-upper, you're looking for a deal that looks a little bit run down. Typically, depending on your market, you're looking for a deal probably somewhere under $300,000. The second way to do it is just to talk to agents in general, and the listing might not even be active, okay? So you can get on realtor.com, or you can even call the agents of the listed properties on the MLS, and then you can basically talk to them and see if they have another deal. And a lot of times, if you just ask them like, hey John, my name's Austin and I'm a real estate agent, or I'm not a real estate agent, my name's Austin and I'm an investor, or whatever the case might be, do you happen to have any other properties that are coming to market? Do you have any pocket listings, right? Do you know of anybody that might be looking to sell where I could make a cash offer and potentially, do a deal with you? The second thing I want to talk about is a big do, okay? Now this one is actually pretty controversial and there's a lot of different people that might tell you otherwise, but I promise you, I've done a lot of deals and I would argue that I've done more deals than a lot of the other people that are telling you not to do what I'm about to tell you to do. And that is, especially in 2023, to find your buyer first. You might not find your exact buyer that'll buy the exact deal that you end up getting under contract, but what I really want you to focus on is in your local market. If you're a wholesaler, right, what you want to do is you want to know your buyer pool. You want to know who's buying, you want to know what they're buying, right? And I'll give you an example. Let's just say I call a bunch of buyers in my local market, right? And I talk to, 50 buyers or 100 buyers over the course of, a week, okay? And I ask them, I say, hey, John, what are you looking to buy? If I found you a deal on a silver platter and I served it to you, what would that ideal deal look like, right? And he says, Austin, I would love to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom in this particular zip code. I would love if it was a single story, pool, no pool, solar, no solar. I want it to be a 1980 or newer. I want it to be 1,500 square feet or smaller. Whatever that criteria is that buyer gives you, right? what you want to do is you want to start to look at and notice the commonality of all of the buyers that you're talking to. And I can guarantee you, you're going to notice a trend. You're going to notice, and I'll give you an example, in my local market, in Arizona, for example, the trend is that most buyers want to buy right now under 300 grand. Now, it doesn't mean that I cannot sell a deal above 300 grand. What it does mean is that most of the buyers, okay, want to buy below 300. So would I go out and would I focus on trying to get deals above 300? Or would my primary focus be to get deals below 300? So I think the biggest thing here, and a lot of people teach it the other way around, right? There's a lot of people out there right now that talk about going out there and getting the deal, right? And don't get me wrong, you can definitely do that. I recommend though that you get the buyer, or you at least have, 50 solid buyers that if you were to bring them the right deal, that they would in fact buy it. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to reverse engineer the wholesaling process. It allows you to now know, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm only gonna look for these particular properties, right? I'm not gonna look for a bunch of junk that doesn't fit the criteria of the buyers that I know for a fact would buy a property if I found one in that particular criteria. So what ends up happening a lot of times with wholesalers, I see it day in and day out. They end up getting a deal, they work so hard and they call a bunch of sellers and they do whatever they're doing. They call a bunch of real estate agents. They go on the MLS and they filter through a bunch of properties. Maybe they make offers on 10 different properties, and then all of a sudden they get the deal under contract. They're so excited and they can't sell the deal because they had no idea what their buyers were actually looking for. Okay, another big do that I would do right out of the gate is I would find a phenomenal partner or a phenomenal mentor or a coach or somebody to work alongside with. If you're brand new to wholesaling real estate, or maybe you've even done a couple of deals, you've got to do it with other people, right? Brent Daniels talks about this all the time, okay? You've got to squad up, okay? You've got to do life and you've got to do business. You especially have to do the world of wholesaling real estate with other people. My biggest recommendation is, if you're brand spanking new, is that you go work for the biggest wholesaler in your local market and you work for them for a year. I have people right now on my wholesaling team that have done over 1,000 wholesale transactions. Now, again, I'm gonna say that again. I have people on my wholesaling team that have done themselves over 1,000 wholesale transactions. The reason I tell you that is because they could absolutely go do it on their own. They could 1,000,000% go figure it out on their own. They could start a large wholesaling operation just like we have, but they see the value in being on a wholesaling team. So especially if you're brand new, again, join a team, right? You're gonna learn everything. You're gonna learn how to talk to people. You're gonna learn who to talk to. You're gonna learn how to comp a deal, right? So many people in the wholesaling community don't know how to comp a deal. They don't even know how to look at a deal. They have no idea how much a deal is worth. You have no idea how bad of a rap the wholesaling world gets, and it really boils down to the fact that they never knew how to run the numbers, right? They locked the deal up way too high. They end up having to do a bunch of price reductions with the seller, and you could have solved all those problems had they known how to underwrite or comp the deal, right? And those are all different things that you can learn when you go and you partner up with somebody, you hire a coach, or you go work for the biggest wholesaler in your local market. Okay, I'm gonna give you a big don't, okay? Do not ever do this. If you are a wholesaler, okay, or you're looking to get into it, don't ever market a property until you have the property under contract. I see a lot of people do it, right? Where they have a verbal agreement with the homeowner or whatever the case might be, and they get all excited and they send the deal out. And so many different things go wrong when you do that. One of the big things that'll go wrong is a bunch of buyers will probably see the deal, and believe it or not, I hate to say it, but they will backdoor you. They will go to the seller and they will get the deal under contract behind your back. And I would love to think that that doesn't ever happen and that people are just amazing human beings and everybody's out there there to serve people and love on people and help people, but that is just unfortunately not the reality. Another big thing is the seller might see who you blasted it out to, and even though you think that'll never happen, somehow or another, you send it out to a bunch of people and somebody you sent it to knows the seller, and all of a sudden the seller gets a hold of it and they call you and they are not happy. They're like, why are you sending the deal around? We don't even have a contract. And I could go on and on and on about the reasons why you don't want to do it, right? Obviously, morally and ethically, it's just not a good thing to do, but also legally, okay? And again, I'm not giving you legal advice, so seek out your own legal advice, but what I will tell you is if you don't have a property under contract, you do not have what they call equitable interest, and if you don't have equitable interest, you cannot be marketing the property. Okay, another big do is to nurture relationships, okay? I see so many people that get into wholesaling and they don't care about relationships. They just care about the deal. And this is something you wanna make sure that you understand right out of the gate, right? This is really important. We are in the relationship game at the end of the day, okay? Believe it or not, a lot of times in the wholesaling world, if you wanna make a lot of money, right? You know, my team, we do anywhere from 40 to 60 wholesale deals a month, right? That is a lot of deals. Literally right now in 2023, we do on average 40 to 60 deals a month, okay? And if you wanna get to that level, you have to build good relationships. You literally cannot do it without building good relationships, and a lot of times these people will bring you repeat deals, especially if you go back to what we were talking about a little while ago with working with real estate agents, okay? If that ends up being the number one thing that you do in the beginning, which is what I recommend, right? Working with agents, working off the MLS, and working with professionals that have the relationship with the homeowner. If you're working with them and you provide a phenomenal experience and you do what you say you're gonna do and you buy it on time and everything you said in the beginning you delivered on, you know, in the end and throughout the transaction, then guess what? They 1,000,000% are gonna bring you more deals. Okay, another big don't is to over-exaggerate the ARV, right? I see it all the time where people will send out a deal and they will put an ARV, an after repair value. If you're not familiar, they're trying to evaluate or they're trying to take a guess as to what the after repair value will be for the flipper, okay, or for the landlord or whoever ends up buying it, right? And they will put an ARV that is significantly higher than what the real ARV should be. And a lot of the people that do it, it's not an accident. They're doing it intentionally to make the deal look better, and that is a big no-no. If you don't know the ARV or there are not good comparables in that same subdivision and there's just no way that you can really pinpoint exactly what you think the ARV is, then what I personally like to do is I like to not send any comparables when we send the property out, and I don't like to suggest that I know what the ARV will be, right? I leave all of that off our deal text, I leave it off the email, we leave it off of everything, and we will let the buyer determine what they think the ARV is, because a buyer is gonna do that anyways. Buyer is not just gonna take your word for it. So if you don't know, then let the buyer do the math on their own. They will determine if the deal is a good deal for them or not. Don't try to trick the buyer into thinking it is a better deal than it really is, okay? They're gonna run their numbers, they know how much it's gonna cost them to fix everything up and do everything like that, right? So you don't have to try to do the math for them if you are uncertain at all. I've seen a lot of times where a wholesaler will send out a property with an ARV that's just absolutely ridiculous, and all of a sudden, you know, buyers will start to learn that you're that guy, right? And all of a sudden, buyers will see a property from you and they'll just completely ignore it because they'll just assume you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're talking about, and you cannot be trusted. All right, another big don't is don't overthink, okay? A lot of people overthink everything in this industry. You've got to stop overthinking. If you're watching the video right now, what I want you to do, and don't overthink it, I want you to just go ahead and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm and make sure that you do not overthink that. Okay, but for real, in the real estate industry, you know, don't overthink. A lot of people, they pick up their phone and they're about to make the call, right? You're about to call, you know, that buyer, or you're about to call that real estate agent. You're on the MLS, you found a good looking property, you looked at it a little bit, it's beat up, it looks like they need a cash offer, and you pick up the phone and you hesitate, right? You overthink it and you waste a bunch of time and you end up not getting anywhere. And I really do not want you to do that. What I want you to do instead is I want you to take massive action. The people that make all of the money wholesaling real estate, right? Guys like me, okay? We've done over 2,000 wholesale deals, and at the end of the day, I screw it up all the time, okay? We have stuff go wrong all the time. I'm not perfect. We have 70 people on our team, and we are still not perfect. So I've never tried to be perfect, right? The video that I'm making right now is not perfect, but what I do is I take massive action. If you take massive action every day, even if it's imperfect action, I promise you, you will eventually make a lot of money, right? But you can never make a lot of money if you get stuck in analysis paralysis or you're overthinking. All you do is just watch YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video. You buy everybody's course, you go to every event, you go to every meetup, and you never take any action. I promise you, you will never be perfect, A, you'll never know everything, B, and you will never make any money, C. Another big don't that I have for you is to not get comfortable when you get a deal under contract. And a lot of people, they do it on accident, okay? What happens is they go and they work, right? And all of a sudden they get a deal, right? And they're fired up. They're beyond fired up. They're stoked. They're like, I'm gonna make 20 grand, I'm gonna make 30 grand or whatever, right? And they go and they celebrate, and then they turn into like a transaction coordinator. Then they turn into like going and trying to find a buyer. And now they're doing, the disposition of the deal, right? They're trying to sell the deal. And they're doing everything in the world but focusing on getting their next deal. And then what happens is you end up building a business that looks something like this right here. Because every couple of months you go on this big peak and you get a deal, and then all of a sudden your business goes back to the ground, right? And then you go back up and you get another deal, and then your business goes back to the ground. And you're really not building a sustainable business. It is not a predictable model at that point in time. At that point in time, in my opinion, it's just a little bit of a hobby. The biggest thing that you can do once you get a deal, in my opinion, is to go ahead and make sure that the very next day you do the exact same thing that got you that deal to begin with. Another big don't as a wholesaler, especially if you're brand new, don't ever send out a contract to the seller without an inspection period unless you're okay with losing your earnest money. Earnest money is the amount of money that you have to put down to secure the deal, right? To open escrow and to ultimately get the deal rolling. And remember, the earnest money is always 100% refundable to you as the buyer, okay? Refundable to you as the buyer as long as you're within your inspection period. So if you're inside of your inspection period, okay, in Arizona, it's typically 10 days is the average. Every state might vary from state to state, but if you're within that period, some other states will call it a due diligence period, okay? It means the same thing. If you're in that period, the earnest money is refundable to you. And you have no idea how many people, they either send out a contract with no inspection period and they dig like $5,000, in earnest money, and then they can't sell the deal and they lose all their earnest money, right? Because they have to back out of the deal. Or, there's people that they do a 5-day inspection period and then they lose track of time and they try to cancel on the 7th day or whatever. So you've just got to be very careful that you make sure you understand the purchase contract when you're initially getting a contract, right? And if you're working with real estate agents or you're doing MLS deals, then a lot of times, maybe the agent is actually the one writing the contract for you. If you're just a wholesaler, right? If you're just the principal in the transaction, like you're the investor, the agent might write it for you. It's especially important if that is the case, because you didn't write it, that you read through the entire purchase contract to know whether or not there's an inspection period. And the last one is do not get frustrated when a deal falls apart, okay? I've seen so many deals that completely fall apart, right? Something goes wrong, somebody changes their mind, somebody gets cold feet, buyer backs out of the deal, whatever it might be, right? We're in the real estate game at the end of the day. And in the real estate game, deals fall apart all the time. It's just the reality of it, okay? You could do everything in your power to try to keep the deal together, which I would always recommend, obviously, that you do. But at the end of the day, sometimes, the deal will just fall apart and there's nothing you can do. I've had it happen to me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in my career where a deal has completely fallen apart. And a lot of times the deal will fall apart for something very, very ridiculous, okay? And in the moment, you're like, I cannot believe that the deal is about to fall apart over that. People are crazy, okay? You're dealing with human beings. You're dealing with a bunch of crap, and sometimes you have to know when to just walk the other direction and be done with it. Remember, your energy is always best spent trying to get that next deal. If a deal's going sideways, you can only try to save it for so long until you say, hey, you know what? I'm moving on, right? I'm gonna move on to the next deal. Okay, so if I was a brand new wholesaler, those are the top 10 things that I would and would not do, right? Those are my do's and those are my don'ts. Thank you for watching the video. I greatly appreciate it. If you have not already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, smash the like button, and go check out my podcast, okay? We have really cool people over there all the time. I'll put an episode right over here, so make sure you go watch the recent episode of the podcast, and we'll see you in the next video.